In my previous life, my sister-in-law was reluctant to take care of the child and dumped him on me. However, my nephew was extremely spoiled. He was not only extremely picky about food when eating, but also had a terrible temper. He would smash bowls and curse at every turn, and he even made me serve him like a servant, asking me to call him, young master. In an attempt to correct his bad habits, I took action to discipline him. But my sister-in-law posted a video of me hitting my nephew online, claiming that I was abusing a child, which led to numerous netizens cyber-bullying me. On the contrary, I attracted a large number of fans. My parents also resented me for hitting their precious grandson, and left me in the hospital. I was eventually stabbed to death with toothpicks by a group of crazy fans. When I woke up again, I found myself back on the day when I was about to discipline my nephew. Suexian, go and feed your nephew quickly. My sister-in-law, who was choosing clothes on her phone, elbowed me hard again. She skillfully ordered me to serve my little nephew. Instead of getting up, I looked at my little nephew in the distance. He smashed a bowl again and stood there, shouting loudly, "I don't like carrots. I don't like celery. I don't like tomatoes. Why did you cook these disgusting dishes? Suexian, I want meat. Go and buy it for me quickly." My little nephew's shrill screams were like a piercing sound through the brain. Since he became sensible, just like my sister-in-law, he directly called me by my name and treated me like a servant of the Su family. I had never heard him call me aunt even once. Not only my sister-in-law, but also my parents and brother regarded him as a treasure and spoiled him to the point of being lawless. When I was young, whenever I was disobedient, my parents would beat me severely with a stick, saying that a spoiled child would never amount to anything. In my previous life, I was worried that if my little nephew continued like this, he would become a scourge to society in the future. In order to correct these bad habits of his, I directly took action to discipline him, hoping that he would be obedient and become a sensible and good child. As a result, this matter directly cost me my life. In this life, I will no longer be a fool who can be bullied like I was in my previous life. Since they don't care what my little nephew will become in the future, why should I bother about it? He has hands and feet. Why should I feed him? I lazily lay on the sofa, playing with my phone, thinking that if anyone should feed him, it should be my sister-in-law. She's his mother. If it gets out, others might think I'm his mother. I'm still young. I don't want to be such a sucker. My sister-in-law's face darkened instantly. Suexian, what are you talking about? Asking you to feed your little nephew is tiring you out? How old are you? Why are you still so delicate? Sister-in-law, I didn't say that. Little nephew doesn't eat not because there's no one to feed him, but because he doesn't see any meat. I smiled and waved at my little nephew. Yaozu, if you want to eat meat, tell your mom. She dotes on you so much that she will definitely buy you several caddies of pork to let you eat to your heart's content. My little nephew's eyes lit up instantly, and he ran to his mother, and said he wanted to eat meat. My sister-in-law's face froze. The money in her pocket was originally intended for a manicure in the afternoon. Yaozu, I heard your little aunt say that eating too much meat is bad for your health. My sister-in-law quickly tried to persuade him. My little nephew immediately glared at me viciously and wailed, pulling my mother over. My mother directly grabbed my hair and started cursing. You good for nothing. All day long, you only know how to bully my precious grandson. You're really pushing your luck. Usually the meals cooked for my little nephew were mainly vegetarian dishes, for fear that he would eat too much meat, and it would be bad for his health. My sister-in-law also didn't agree to let my little nephew eat more meat. One reason was that she was reluctant to spend money, and the other was that she didn't like children to be chubby. Therefore, every time my mother and my little nephew had a quarrel, my sister-in-law would push me out to take the blame, causing me to be beaten all over by my mother. In my previous life, I understood that it was not easy for my sister-in-law, who had married far away from home, so I shielded and protected her everywhere. But now, I don't have that kind heartedness to send myself to my doom. I no longer shielded my sister-in-law as I did in my previous life. Instead, I immediately explained, I never said such a thing. Little nephew likes meat, so he should eat more. At such a young age, he should be doted on. As long as he's happy. My mother's expression softened. If you dare to bully my precious grandson again, I'll tear your mouth apart. My sister-in-law, who had been gloating originally, didn't expect me to say this. Facing my mother's gaze, she instantly felt guilty. But when she averted her eyes, she glared at me fiercely. I sneered in my heart. Such a person only knew how to take advantage of my kindness and make me the punching bag for the whole family. She wanted to use me to set off how noble she was. She could never dream of it in this lifetime. My mother shouted at me, "Hurry up and go buy meat for my precious grandson." Mom, little nephew likes the meat that sister In-law buys. Let sister-in-law take little nephew to buy it. In this way, little nephew can eat as much as he wants. Raising him to be white and plump will surely bring good fortune. I actively suggested. As soon as my little nephew heard this, he immediately hugged his mother's hand and shouted to go out to buy meat. But my sister-in-law opened her mouth, wanting to refuse. She didn't want to spend the money for a manicure on buying meat for her little nephew. Most of the money in the family was kept by my mother. If she spent too much, she could only get some simple patterns for her manicure. My mother urged impatiently, "What, but? Asking you to take my precious grandson out is giving you face. Hurry up and go. What if my precious grandson goes hungry?" My sister-in-law had no choice but to take my little nephew out. I took the initiative to stir-fry the meat and deliberately placed it in front of my little nephew when setting the table. "Eat more. Look how thin you've become from hunger. In the future, if you want to eat anything, just ask your mom to buy it for you." My parents were satisfied with my performance, but my little nephew snorted at me. "If you dare to cook those disgusting dishes for me again in the future, I'll kick you out. Don't think you can freeload in my house anymore." If it were in the past, I might have defied my mother's anger and disciplined my little nephew to correct his wrong perception. But now, I'm not angry. Instead, I smiled and let him eat his fill. Since my nephew is picky about food, let him only eat what he wants. If he has a big temper, let him vent. He can smash bowls and tables as he pleases. Anyway, it's not my money to buy these things. I don't feel sorry at all. I will never manage him when he's being unreasonable again. In my sister-in-law's eyes, having a child was merely to please my mother and solidify her position in the family. Usually, she would post the daily life of my nephew on her mobile phone, creating the image of a good mother. When my nephew threw a tantrum, she didn't dare to discipline him for fear of being scolded by my mother. However, she often found it extremely annoying and deliberately instigated me to deal with the child. Then, she would say online that she loved her baby deeply, was reluctant to harm the child, and even more so, was unwilling to raise the child through violent means. In this day and age, children are meant to be doted on, not scolded. Her act of creating the image of a loving mother was quite successful. I just gave my nephew a few spanks on his bottom when he smashed bowls and cursed, but I was mercilessly criticized by those thoughtless people on the internet. They even insulted my entire family lineage. My elder brother, I don't know what my sister-in-law told him, said unhappily, "Why ask your sister-in-law to buy it? The money your sister-in-law spends isn't mine. Don't waste my son's money recklessly." My sister-in-law rolled her eyes and continued, "Sue Xian, your elder brother does hard labor, and it's not easy for him to earn money. Unlike you, a highly educated person who can earn tens of thousands of yuan a month, just by sitting in an office. I think since you live here and everything you eat, wear and use comes from our family, you should hand over all the money you earn. Mom and Dad, don't you think so?" I hadn't told my mother how much I earned before, fearing that she would take all my money. Later, when my company paid my salary, my sister-in-law accidentally saw it and had been coveting my money for a long time. I sneered, "So that's what you're up to?" My mother's expression changed instantly. She picked up a broom and started hitting me with it. "How dare you deceive me?" My father also spat and cursed at me. "You heartless thing. You earn so much money but don't hand it over and even dare to hide it. Do you really think all the money in this family is yours?" As he spoke, he kicked me hard and scolded me with a dark face. "How dare you steal my money? Get out of here." I wasn't flustered. Instead, I smiled and said, "Mom, if I really had that much money, I would have been doing very well outside already. Sister-in-law must have seen it wrong. You also know that sister-in-law can't work and can't take care of the child either. You're getting old and can't endure much trouble. This important task can only fall on me. When would I have the time to work? I've already been fired by the company." My mother immediately stopped. She exchanged a glance with my father. My father said matter-of-factly, "Then you should go out and find a job right away. Every month, you must hand over all the money you earn without keeping a single cent." My mother looked at my sister-in-law with a look of disdain in her eyes. "From now on, let your sister-in-law take care of the child. It's her turn to do the household chores. She just knows how to freeload at home and squander my son's money all day long. She enjoys life even more than we do." They had long been dissatisfied with my sister-in-law. It was just that my elder brother had protected her before, and she had given birth to a son. Moreover, they threw all the household matters at me and took their anger out on me whenever something went wrong. That's why they had allowed my sister-in-law to live a carefree life at home. My nephew also shouted loudly, "Grandma, she should be kicked out to earn money for me. She only knows how to cook unappetizing dishes all day long. She's trying to kill me." I wasn't angry either. I immediately agreed with a big smile, afraid that they would change their minds. My sister-in-law was dumbfounded. She didn't expect things to develop in this direction, and she never thought that I wouldn't oppose my parents. In the end, she ended up shooting herself in the foot. My sister-in-law was anxious. "Mom and Dad, I really don't know how to take care of the child. Yaozu won't listen to me either. If I do the housework, I'll turn into a haggard woman." My mother glared at my sister-in-law and cursed. "What do you mean? Now that Sue Xian is going out to earn money and there's no one to serve you? Do you want us to serve you instead? My sister-in-law was exposed, and her face instantly turned ashamed and ugly. She tugged at my elder brother's clothes and shouted anxiously, "Dachyoung, say something." My elder brother shook off her hand and said with a dark face, "This matter is settled like this." My sister-in-law felt wronged and wanted to say something more, but my elder brother directly scolded her. "Don't think I don't know what you've been doing with my money. You just know how to squander it all day long. Do you know how hard it is for me to earn money? Su Xian still knows how to share some of the burden with me. But you Yubajia Nangman, if it weren't for my mother keeping the money well, you would have squandered it all already." My sister-in-law glared at me furiously, but I just smiled at her and quickly packed my things and went out to look for a job. Of course, how could I really look for a job and hand over all the money I earned with great effort to my parents? Except at night, I basically wandered outside. Whenever my parents asked me how my job search was going, I would use a series of excuses like not having worked for a long time, and my major not being a good fit to prevaricate. It was extremely satisfying not to be a free nanny at home, and endure the humiliation anymore. As for my sister-in-law, every time I came back late at night, I could hear my mother shouting at her, saying that she couldn't even do the work well, and it was bad enough that she couldn't take good care of her precious grandson, and she even dared to vent her anger on her. After just a few days my sister-in-law became much more haggard. Her carefully cared for skin became rough, and the manicure she had just done was cut short and ugly by my mother. Every time my sister-in-law saw me, there was resentment in her eyes, as if she wanted to devour me alive. I just pretended not to see it, and went back to my room to sleep happily. As soon as it was dawn, I pretended to be working hard to find a job and left. After enjoying such a comfortable life for a few days, a phone call from my mother made me realize that my sister-in-law finally couldn't resist taking revenge on me. "You dead girl, you liar. Where the hell have you been? Get back here right now. If anything happens to my grandson, I'll kill you." As soon as I rushed to the hospital, my mother tried to grab my hair and slap me, but I dodged it in advance. I pretended to know nothing and looked at my nephew lying in the hospital bed, asking worriedly, "Mom, what happened? Why is Yaozu in the hospital?" My mother's face contorted with anger, and she shouted at the top of her lungs, "You dead girl! How dare you mention my precious grandson? If it weren't for you giving my precious grandson junk food, how could Yaozu have fallen into a coma and gone into shock? It's all your fault that you've harmed my grandson. How could I have given birth to such a heartless daughter like you?" My father was also extremely angry. He was a die-hard patriarch who believed that men were supreme. He was still holding a stool in his hand and looking at me with a gaze that seemed to want to kill me right away to avenge his grandson. He cursed, "If anything happens to my grandson, I'll break your legs." My elder brother was also furious. Only my sister-in-law sat beside them with a hint of a smile in her eyes. In the corner not far away, there was a mobile phone that was live streaming, and the comments were all scolding me. The patients and their families in other hospital beds also fun scolded me, calling me a vicious and ungrateful person. More and more people gathered at the door to watch the commotion. The nurses rushed over in a hurry, trying to stop it but simply couldn't squeeze in. Having learned from the previous lesson, my mother deliberately grabbed me, and my elder brother also stood beside me, surrounding me, so I didn't have a chance to dodge in time. I was knocked down by the stool my father threw, and the pain made me break out in a cold sweat. I explained loudly, "I didn't do this." My sister-in-law looked heartbroken and said, "Su Xian, I know you hold a grudge against Yaozu. In the past when he ordered you around, you always disliked Yaozu being picky about food and showed him a bad face. But you can't try to kill him just to get revenge on Yaozu." She glanced at my nephew on the bed, and my nephew immediately pointed at me and said, "It was her. Grandma and Grandpa. She tried to kill me. Teach her a lesson for me." I sneered, having noticed his little trick. I thought if he can pretend, so can I. I immediately started crying and said, "Mom and Dad, I know that men are born to be served by women. In order to find a job as soon as possible and hand over the money to improve your lives and make things easier for us, I leave early and come back late every day. I even go door to door, begging for a job with a humble attitude. When would I have the time to buy junk food for Yaozu? I know my sister-in-law doesn't like me. Before, I was the one doing all the housework at home, and she just lay comfortably at home. Now in order to make things better for everyone, I went out to look for a job. Since I can't take care of you anymore, this burden has fallen on my sister-in-law. It's understandable that she can't accept it all at once, but she can't wrongly accuse me without any evidence." My sister-in-law was stunned. Soon, she came to her senses and said, "You're talking nonsense. I'm not wrongly accusing you. Anyway, Yaozu is my own flesh and blood, my dear son. How could I harm my son just to wrongly accuse you?" My mother only had eyes for her precious grandson and naturally believed my sister-in-law unconditionally. "Su Xian, you dead girl. It's not enough that you've harmed my grandson, and now you want to harm my daughter-in-law too?" Just as my sister-in-law's Yi expression was about to become unbearable, I suddenly said, "I have evidence to prove my innocence." They thought I was stalling for time and trying to run away, so they didn't believe me at all. I directly took out my phone and opened the surveillance video of the living room. I knew that the surveillance at home had been broken for a long time, but my parents were getting old and their health was prone to problems, and Yaozu was still young. If something happened and we didn't notice it, it would be a disaster. So I took the time to repair the surveillance. The surveillance was installed not long after my nephew was born. Some families install surveillance at home because they're worried about something happening to their children, to avoid any accidents when they're out. My sister-in-law found my nephew noisy and often left her son to me to take care of. My parents also asked me to take care of all the household chores. As a result, I had less and less time to go out, and I couldn't even find a job. My elder brother knew that I had become my nephew's little nanny and couldn't be bothered to care about it. He also didn't want to spend an extra penny to repair the surveillance, so it had been broken all the time. My nephew had been clamoring for big fish and meat every day, but my sister-in-law couldn't cook at all and couldn't satisfy this picky nephew. She was also afraid that my parents would scold her for not taking good care of their precious grandson, and she held a grudge against me for leaving her son with her and making her take on all the household chores. So when my parents were out, my sister-in-law ordered junk food takeout for my nephew every day and coaxed my nephew that if my parents and my elder brother asked, he should say that I bought it. After the truth came out, my sister-in-law's face turned deathly pale. She looked at me sinisterly and shouted angrily, "Su Exine, you repaired the surveillance. Why didn't you say so earlier?" I said leisurely, "I was busy looking for a job and forgot to tell you about it for a while. Who would have thought you would do such a thing? If I had told you earlier, it would have been to guard against you, right?" My mother's expression immediately changed. She stepped forward, grabbed my sister-in-law's hair, and slapped her face. She beat her like a crazy woman. "You wickedly May. You actually poisoned my precious grandson." My sister-in-law's scalp hurt from being pulled, and her face contorted with pain, but she still stubbornly refused to admit it. "Ouch, it hurts, Mom. I didn't do it. Su Exine must be wrongly accusing me." My father felt so ashamed that his face turned red and white. It turned out that after all this commotion, it was their good daughter-in-law who was at fault. My elder brother, like my father, cared a great deal about his reputation. When the people around heard the reversal, their curses died down. I lifted my eyelids and took a look, and the reactions of the crowd intensified. Then I made up a story on the spot. I was just about to succeed in an interview with a big company. I could have earned 20,000 yuan a month. But as soon as the HR heard that I had harmed my own nephew, they immediately asked me to leave. My elder brother suddenly spoke up and stared straight at me. "What did you say? 20,000 yuan a month?" My parents were also stunned. After all, my elder brother toiled hard for a month and only earned less than 5,000 yuan. While I casually mentioned 20,000 yuan, they were extremely pained. One phone call had ruined their chance at 20,000 yuan. My mother was so angry that she almost couldn't catch her breath. Her eyes were blurred and she beat my sister-in-law even more ferociously. "You 败家的贱人. You made my precious grandson be hospitalized, taught him to lie, and now you've failed to frame my daughter and even caused her to lose her job." My elder brother and my father finally couldn't hold back and stepped in to teach her a lesson. My nephew, lying on the bed, was almost seething with anger. He kicked his mother with his feet and, still not satisfied, started cursing, uttering all kinds of foul language. My sister-in-law's screams kept coming, and the scene was in complete chaos. I, on the side, pretended to try to stop the fight. It was not until the police arrived that this farce came to an end. My parents completely turned against my sister-in-law. Their attitude towards me also changed. They never spoke harshly to me again, and always greeted me with smiles every day, hoping that I would look for a job again. I wasn't worried at all that my lie would be exposed. I had my sister-in-law to thank for that. When she previously revealed my salary, she deliberately exaggerated how capable I was and inflated the amount of money I earned by more than twice. Moreover, since they didn't know where I went for the interview, they simply couldn't find anyone to verify. And my sister-in-law deliberately set up her phone to live stream, hoping to ruin my reputation. The new wave of fans also turned against her. The whole internet was filled with curses, calling her a heartless mother. My parents were worried that something else might happen to my nephew and planned to take care of him themselves. They spoiled him even more, allowing him to eat the best food every day. Any dish that my nephew didn't like would never appear on the dining table. By the time he was only 7 years old, he already weighed over 180 pounds and had become a chubby ball. His facial features were almost squeezed out by the fat. His development was slower than that of children of the same age, and his intelligence was even lower than that of a 5-year-old. My sister-in-law had been visibly haggard from being tormented these days. Her skin had turned sallow, and her hands were covered in calluses, looking rough and ugly. The skincare products and cosmetics at home were all thrown away by my mother. She hated my nephew extremely. Looking at my nephew, who had become so fat, she was filled with disgust and always kept a distance from him at home. My elder brother also found it a bit unbearable. My nephew was really too fat. When going out with him, others would laugh at him. But my parents adored him to no end, saying that being able to eat was a blessing, and that their precious grandson would become a great person in the future. Only lowly people from the lower classes would eat vegetables every day. If their family circumstances hadn't been poor when they were young, they would also have eaten meat every day. My elder brother had no choice but to accept it. Basically, all the money in the family was spent on buying meat for my nephew. My elder brother was starting to feel the financial strain, and began to urge me, asking if I had found a job. My parents also kept calling me to ask about the situation. I thought it was time to take action. I deliberately went to the mall to buy toys that my nephew liked and bought health products for my parents and elder brother, then went home. As soon as my nephew saw the things in my hands, he didn't even greet me, let alone say thank you. He took the things from my hands as a matter of course, and then said to me with a dark face, "If you dare to waste my money again in the future, I'll beat you to death." My mother, while pretending to be disdainful, Directly open the things I bought. Now that you have money, what kind of things are you buying? Hurry up and hand over all the money. I obediently handed over the few hundred yuan I had on me. Mom, I've recently come into contact with a new job, but it requires a 10,000 yuan prepayment for training. After the training, if I work hard, I can earn about 20,000 yuan a month. My mother spat on her hands, and then counted the money one by one. When she heard what I said, she immediately changed her expression. You dead girl, what did you say? 10,000 yuan? There's no way. My nephew shouted from the side. That's my money. Don't give it to her. My sister-in-law secretly glanced at me. Mom, except for this kind of job with a high salary, other jobs only pay 1 or 2,000 yuan a month. My mother immediately hesitated. After all, the difference between 1 or 2,000 yuan and 20,000 yuan was huge. But she was reluctant to take out the money, so she had to call my father and elder brother back. My father was reluctant to spend money on me, but the temptation of 20,000 yuan a month was too great. My elder brother's eyes lit up, and he tried his best to persuade my parents. Just when he was almost successful in persuading them, the door was knocked loudly. My sister-in-law opened the door. Several burly men with hideous tattoos all over their arms came in. They looked extremely intimidating. My sister-in-law was immediately terrified and her voice trembled. Who is it? The men rushed in directly and pointed at me ferociously. Suxian, pay back the money quickly. My mother had never seen such a scene before, and was scared out of her wits. She didn't understand what was going on. Asking for money? You little rascal. What have you been up to behind our backs? I hid behind my elder brother, looking scared. Brother Long, I really don't have 500,000 yuan. Even if you take my life, I can't scrape that much together. The brother Long standing at the door said roughly, if you can't pay it back, I'll take your parents' lives. Pay back the money quickly. If you don't pay it back today, I'll tear down your house. My elder brother was also extremely cowardly. He wanted to get away, but I held him tightly. I started crying pitifully. Brother, Mom and Dad, you can't just ignore me. I only invested in stocks for our family, but I didn't expect to lose all the money. I was buganshin, so I borrowed from loan sharks. But I'm still useless. I didn't earn any money back and instead owed 500,000 yuan. As long as you help me pay it back, they won't do anything to me. Mom, please save me. My nephew, with his mind full of his money, didn't allow anyone to touch it. That's my money. My parents were also reluctant. You dead girl, why should we pay back the money you owe? My elder brother shook me off, having figured everything out. You're asking us for money. Do you want us to pave the way for you, Eugenrun? My sister-in-law took the opportunity to criticize me. She was extremely happy. I said she wasn't a good person. She did it on purpose. If the debt collectors hadn't come early, this money might really have ended up in our hands. I said helplessly to Brother Long, I've given all my money to my parents. I have no money, but you can take my life. Brother Long motioned with his hand, and 2 tall and strong men beside him walked directly towards my parents. Then let your parents pay back the money. If they don't pay back the money in a day, we'll stay here for a day. We'll leave when they pay back the money. My nephew wanted to make a scene but was controlled by the strong men. My mother, Shintung Ing, her grandson, couldn't wait to distance herself from me. We don't have such a Baijia daughter. I only have one son. My elder brother also didn't want to be burdened with the 500,000 yuan debt and immediately said, she has nothing to do with us. If you want the money, go after her alone. My parents threw all my things away and watched indifferently as I was taken away by Brother Long. They even let out a sigh of relief. I picked up my things and thanked Brother Long and the others. Thank you. You're welcome. In fact, these people were extras I hired. I didn't actually owe 500,000 yuan. I just wanted them to get rid of me on their own initiative. If I really found a job, they would only keep an eye on me every month. They might even directly bind my salary to my elder brother's bank card. Then, when the company paid my salary, it would go directly to my elder brother, and I wouldn't even see it. If I didn't give them the money, they would definitely go to my company to make a scene, and might even say in public how heartless I was, forcing me to hand over the money. I didn't want them to suck my blood. So, I took my documents and went to another city to develop. I heard from friends here that my sister-in-law couldn't stand my parents' tempers and couldn't really endure being a housewife. She was scolded into submission by my parents. A few days later, she became restless again. She had previously live-streamed her son's hospitalization, hoping to ruin my reputation, but it backfired on her. However, my sister-in-law not only didn't cancel her account, but instead became popular in a negative way using the popularity of being scolded by the whole internet. She filmed videos with her son every day and did live streaming to sell goods, earning a lot of money. She originally wanted to go out and enjoy herself, get a beauty treatment or something, but was stopped by her nephew, who said that all the money my sister-in-law earned was his and didn't allow her to go out and spend it recklessly. She could only spend money on him. My sister-in-law was angry and wanted to discipline her nephew, but her nephew had become fatter and stronger from overeating in the past few months. Plus, with his arrogant temperament, having been spoiled as a young master by the whole family, he didn't even put my parents in his eyes. How could he be willing to be disciplined by his mother? He directly beat his mother into the hospital. When my parents found out, they didn't blame their grandson but instead pointed at my sister-in-law lying on the hospital bed and cursed, even scratching her face. My elder brother also sided with his son, and ignored his wife. Later, as my nephew grew up, he realized his ugliness. Due to being picky about food and being extremely obese, he had various health problems and was no longer like a normal person. Wherever he went, he was laughed at. In a fit of anger, he went home and beat up my parents. My parents were old and weak, and they were almost killed. When they woke up and were questioned by the police, they didn't hold a grudge against their grandson, but instead blamed themselves for scaring him. They made a scene and asked the police to release their grandson. Later, my nephew became more and more arrogant. He took out his anger on my parents or my elder brother and sister-in-law at home and bullied other children outside. My parents couldn't get out of bed, so they could only ask my elder brother to clean up his mess. My sister-in-law couldn't stand being treated like a servant by her nephew and couldn't stand taking care of my parents all day long, and being scolded for not taking good care of their precious grandson. Under the cover of night, she fed my parents rat poison, secretly beat up her nephew, and then ran away with the money from home. Only my elder brother and nephew were left to torment each other. My elder brother, after all, wasn't as doting on his son as my parents. He wanted to discipline his son and change his temperament, but it was too late. His son had already become set in his ways. At this point, trying to change his thinking had become a joke. As for me, I was promoted step by step from a junior staff member, and lived a carefree life for the rest of my life. The end.